The views and opinions expressed on America's Workforce Union podcast and its digital media channels are solely those of the speakers and do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of the producers or sponsors.
Welcome to the America's Workforce Radio Podcast, the flagship production of the American Workers Radio and Podcast Network, where organized labor and its never-ending fight to protect the rights of the American worker come first. Now, presented by LIUNA, Laborers International Union of North America. Here's your host, Ed Flash Ferens.
New Jersey finalizes rules on independent contractors. Meanwhile, the Department of Labor says it will decide by the end of June how to proceed on the Biden-era overtime rule. And today on the show on Trades Tuesday, the Round Rock, Texas firefighters. Welcome to the Tuesday, May 12th edition of America's Workforce, where we are available on at least 5 platforms, including YouTube, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Pandora. We have one guest on the show today, and that would be Billy Colburn. Now, Billy is a 30-year veteran with the Round Rock Fire Department in Texas. They're just outside Austin, Texas. This would be local 3082. The website you want to go to is roundrockfirefighters.org. And I just want to call attention to the recording of this segment on the show today. We recorded this last month, and Billy talked about an election. It was Proposition B on the May ballot. And this was all about staffing, firefighter staffing, which is not just an issue in Texas, but an issue for just about every fire department in the United States. And what they wanted to do was follow the national standard of minimum staffing. Sadly, they lost the election. It was overwhelming. It was about 60-40 on that election. And the mayor, the council, the city chamber of commerce, all of them lined up and said, you know what, you got to do with what you have. We're not going to support you with any more dollars. Sad situation, but Billy is going to talk about why they need safe staffing, which is a no-brainer, okay? Let's be honest about that. And how this is going to help firefighters, especially when it comes to recruiting down the road. So Billy Colburn will be our featured guest on the show today. Again, that website is roundrockfirefighters.org. Now, a brief look into the world of labor. This segment brought to you by Boyd Watterson Asset Management. We're talking $38 billion of assets under advisement serving the needs of Taft-Hartley funds for corporations, public funds, endowments, foundations, and religious organizations. You can find more at boydwatterson.com. New Jersey's Department of Labor and Workforce Development has finalized rules to clarify the distinction between employees and independent contractors. This is a huge issue in the country, and it's been a huge issue for a long time. Well, here's the deal. This deal formalizes a 3-part ABC test that employers must meet before a worker can be classified as an independent contractor. The employer must not have control or direction over the worker. The work must be outside the usual course of business. And the worker must engage in other independently established work. Now, the rule is set to go in effect at the beginning of October and has already stirred controversy in the business community. It faces opposition from Uber, Lyft, Instacart, DoorDash, and the New Jersey Business and Industry Association, who fear their workers will be reclassified as employees, requiring minimum wage and overtime. During the notice and comment period, officials eliminated a clause stating that app drivers are likely within the usual course of business. Now, a sub-factor defining apps as evidence of control or direction was also removed, but remains elsewhere in the document as an example. Now, some are saying this rule is not like California's AB 5, which formally classified gig workers as employees. Yet, it is yet to be seen whether New Jersey courts will find a practical distinction on this one. This is definitely going to raise the eyebrow of a lot of people. It already has. But you know what's interesting in this story is how the business community is coming down on this already, saying that, oh my God, we can't have an employee because we have to pay them minimum wage. We have to pay them overtime. How can you do that to us? Amazing what's going on in America here. The Department of Labor told a federal court it will decide by the end of June how to proceed with the Biden-era overtime rule. Now, this regulation, going back to 2024, sought to expand overtime eligibility for millions of workers by raising the salary threshold to $58,656 and revising exemptions for executive, administrative, and professional employees. Now, originally meant to go in effect in July of last year, that rule has faced multiple legal challenges and was vacated by 2 Texas federal judges before any changes were implemented. The Association of Christian Schools also sued the Department of Labor under the Administrative Procedure Act. A D.C. judge paused litigation while the agency finalizes its decision on whether to revise or actually throw out the rule altogether. And again, that decision should come at the end of June. I want to take a minute or two to give you the latest on the union busters in America. This is a service of the Labor Lab out of Montana. Our friend Bob Funk does a great job on this, laborlab.us. Here's one out of Montana. St. Vincent Healthcare hired the AZ Alignment Group Association, and they're paying them $625 an hour. The University of Maryland Medical System hired Bardi Education Services and Heightened Solutions. I don't have a rate on that right now. Olson Brothers Provac out of Washington State hired Legacy Consulting, $450 an hour. GFL Plant Services out of Texas hired Legacy Consulting, $475 an hour. But guess what? The workers won the election there. Didn't work out for them. TCL Specialties, West Virginia, hired the Crossroads Group, paid them $475 an hour. That election was lost. Henning Power Protection out of Illinois hired GNE Consulting Services. Don't have a rate for that. And lastly, First Steps for Kids. Sounds like a child care center, right? They're out of California. They hired Legacy Consulting, $475 an hour, and that election was won. Money not well spent. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, the Round Rock Firefighters Association in Texas. Their story coming up right after this on America's Workforce. Don't go away.
You're listening to America's Workforce with Ed Flash Ferens.
It takes LiUNA to power North America with affordable energy. The men and women of LiUNA, the Laborers International Union of North America, have the skills needed to build and maintain oil, natural gas, nuclear, solar, and wind projects that are shaping America's energy future. From new energy tech to retrofitted facilities, LiUNA members do it all. Find out what it takes to be powered by LiUNA at liuna.org. That's liuna.org.
America's Workforce is brought to you in part by the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, where you can find more at teamster.org.
America's Workforce is sponsored in part by Boyd Watterson Asset Management, LLC. Find out more about our investment solutions tailored to meet the needs of Taft-Hartley funds at boydwatterson.com.
America's Workforce appreciates our sponsor, the Columbus Central Ohio Building and Construction Trades Council, who represents more than 18,000 workers from 19 affiliated local unions and district councils.
America's Workforce is brought to you in part by the International Federation of Professional and Technical Engineers. You can find more at IFPTE.org. America's Workforce is brought to you in part by the Ironworkers. You can find more at ironworkers.org. The Ironworkers Great Lakes District Council, consisting of 8 ironworker local unions in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Michigan. We build the skylines and bridges along the Great Lakes. With more work than ever before, the Great Lakes District Council is actively searching out the next great ironworker, whether it's building the next Intel plant or constructing a bridge to safely connect our great cities along the lake. So join the Ironworkers Great Lakes District Council today. Find out how and learn more about the council by visiting iwdistrictcouncil.com. America's Workforce is brought to you in part by the Heat and Frost Insulators Labor Management Cooperative Trust. Find out more at insulators.org/LMCT.
Now, back to America's Workforce. Here's Ed Flash Farrens.
And remember, you can check us out on Facebook or follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter. That would be AWF Union Podcast, AWF Union Podcast. You know, for the last couple of weeks, couple of months, actually, what we've been doing here on America's Workforce is checking in with various fire departments. One of the big issues, it's a common thread, it seems, is short staffing. Today, we're focusing on a fire department in Round Rock, Texas, which is just north of Austin. Big suburb, and Billy Colburn is going to talk about it. Billy, well, he just stepped down as president of the union. This would be IAFF Local 3082, okay? That's the International Association of Firefighters, Local 3082. The website you want to go to is roundrockfirefighters.org. Billy, welcome to America's Workforce. Thanks for joining us today. And before we get into the issue you want to discuss, and this is a proposition there dealing with staffing, tell me a little bit about yourself. This is a dangerous job. This is a profession. What I did find, there's a lot of folks that got into it because their dad or their uncle got into firefighting. What's your story, brother?
So I actually grew up in a law enforcement family and with a military background. My dad told me, be a fireman because people love firemen. Don't be a cop. They got it rough. And I kind of grew up in that household. So I actually started off volunteering in my little small town of about 800 people. And that's how it became the love of my life, really, other than now my wife and my kids, is the firefighting. I have a passion for it. I've been doing it for 31 years as a paid firefighter in the city. All my years are in the city of Round Rock. I just finished my term of union president, almost 23 years.
That's a long time, no doubt about that. Round Rock, it's what is it, like a super suburb over there of Austin?
That's what they call them in Texas. It's basically another big city that's growing. I think our total build out is somewhere around 350,000 people. We're about halfway done growing. We're landlocked. But yeah, it's just north of Austin. We butt up north of Austin, which Austin's nearly a million people now. We have the traffic just like a city with a million people, pretty much.
Yeah. Texas has grown by leaps and bounds, there's no question. How many members in the department right now?
Total with civilian staff and everything, we have about 180. Frontline firefighters, we have about a 90, almost 99% people are in our union. We have around 165.
So let me ask you, with the growing of Round Rock, obviously there's more work to be done for firefighters. Is it keeping pace with the growth?
No, that's why we're in the position we are today. The growth of the city is outpacing the growth of the fire department. And it's been hard to keep up. I know we have studies going back 20 years saying we need this or need that. They were paid for by the city, and they would come in, consultants would come in and say, here's what you need to do, but we would never do it. The plan always changes. And that's why we ended up doing Prop B, is to develop a plan to move us forward along with the International Association of Firefighters. who represents firefighters all the way from Canada, all the way out through the United States. I believe there's well over 350,000 firefighters now part of the local.
Well, let's talk about that. I know the IAFF has been very vocal about staffing across the country. They've done, to your point, you said some studies on this, and there's certain standards, and it sounds to me that the standards are not being obeyed. What are those standards?
So the minimal standards is 4 firefighters per apparatus, minimal standards. That's because there's OSHA laws out there that have they call it 2 in, 2 out. Anybody's involved in that, they'll know it. And if you pull up to a house fire, if 2 guys are in the house fire, you got to have 2 guys to be ready to save that firefighter if he's trapped. And that's the minimal standard set forth. I know NIST was involved, National Institute of Safety Technologies, I believe that's what. They've done multiple studies over the years to prove that 4-man minimal is the minimal. We are surrounded by many communities around us that already have met the standard of 4-man staffing. We are just behind, and we don't meet that standard.
And how long has it been like that?
Well, some cities around us have had it for 20 years. Some of them had it for 3 years. And we've been talking about it for 20 years. And on average, we average about 3 of our 13 units a day. So the rest of them don't have it. It fluctuates.
How has that affect, when it comes to safety and response time?
Well, it affects, when we respond to a fire, it's a different deal in the city. When you respond there, we have to have that staffing. So we send a lot of units to a fire. So now you're waiting for the second unit to get there so we can have 4 people. Texas requires that you have 4 people to fight interior structure fires, like go inside and put the fire out. So we have to wait for additional units to respond for we're capable of doing that. So just because you live next to a fire station, you think you're safe. When you have 3 firefighters, we're actually waiting for the next unit to get there before we can actually perform our job.
Wow. So talk to me about this Proposition B that you're involved with.
So Proposition B sets minimal standards, and it's over a 10-year process. We try to stay fiscally responsible, obviously. We want to keep our retention program going where we'll be able to pay our firefighters very good so they don't leave to go somewhere else. There's a big competition in Texas with that. It's over a 10-year program. The first 5 years is to fix the staffing and bring every unit in the city of Round Rock up to the 4-man minimal standard capability. And then from that point forward, there's certain response times we have to meet. And that's the 4-minute arrival. When you call 911, 90% of the time, 9 out of 10 times, that an engine will arrive at your house within 4 minutes of drive time. It actually calculates out somewhere between 5 and 6 minutes because you have to process the 911 call. There's a lot of accountability with the process because now we're putting it in our charter or trying to get it in our charter, and it puts it in local control. We believe the city doesn't like it, but it puts it in the voters' hands where the voters, if they don't like it, they have to vote it out or they have to change it, amend it to what they want.
So is this election going on right now, or is it going to be on a future ballot, or what?
So we started our early election yesterday at the polls. It was pouring down rain. We finally got rain in Texas. It was a little rough, the low turnout, but we had some good discussions at the polls yesterday. We have a lot of backing. When we collected our signatures, we were only required to get 3,400 signatures. We were close to 8,000 signatures at the door. Our folks in the city of Round Rock, our citizens that we serve for years now, they support us. Every public safety bond that is to build fire stations has passed at 76%, 75%. So we feel like we have a good chance to, even though we have a lot of opposition out there with some city folks. The Chamber of Commerce came out of it. Now the Police Officer Association, our union, came out against us because of threats they've been facing. The city's threatened to cut their budget, threatened to not give them their raises if our thing passes. They're just trying to turn them against us.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean, safety forces going against safety forces.
Yeah, we wish that the Round Rock Police Officer Association should have stayed neutral. And unfortunately, they didn't meet with our president and see what the cost was. The city, of course, they came out and said this is going to cost $200 million. We got to hire 200 firefighters and really inflated the cost to our Prop B, which it's not true. We have a study we've already put out, and it's nil to nothing. On top of there is no tax increase to citizens around Rock. It's called a reallocation of funds. And we wouldn't have done this if there would have been, because people don't like taxes. So
Yeah.
it's tough to get past. I don't like taxes either, right? We actually cover nearly 200,000 people because we call in Texas, they call them emergency services districts. Area that's growing outside the city, a municipality that has its own fire taxing district, but it's not part of municipality. We received nearly $5 million last year from that, providing those services. Yet that money goes into the overall general fund. It does not go to the fire department. Those funds, if they were put towards the fire department like they're supposed to be, it pays for 40 firefighters today. We only need 37, but the city's refusing to use those funds. And they say they do, but they don't, because there's nowhere in our budget does it show the $5 million. So we did this without a property tax increase, and it was hard to believe. But Round Rock's a very wealthy community. It's one of the wealthiest in the state of Texas. We are home to Dell Computers. So when everybody was hurting during COVID, we were banking, because everybody stayed home and we were selling computers, and Dell Computers is rocking along well today.
Wow. You mentioned did I hear that right? $200 million they're claiming that this would cost?
It was a little over 200 million. They're claiming. They're just inflating the numbers.
Well, where did they come up with that number?
So the city already has planned growth. When our city does a 5-year projection on growth, we're actually, Station 10 is about to open up right now. And then we have Station 11, which was bonded, is going to open up in 2028. They're counting that against us. They're saying, if you pass this, now we got to do Station 11, Station 12. Even though they have plans for this, our plan just holds them to the plan. By passing the charter makes them follow their own plan on a timeline, and they don't like timelines.
They don't like to be told what to do, it sounds like.
I was going to say that, but that's basically what this comes down to. They don't want the peon employee who's firefighters that are, there's no one that knows it better than the firefighters. I've worked every rank all the way up. I don't know everything about the fire department, but there's somebody in the fire department that knows something, and you can go to anybody and probably figure out anything, because firemen are well versed. We got guys that build homes. If you know how to build a home, go ask this firefighter. We have guys with finance degrees. We have guys that are getting their law degrees, so they're well versed in everything.
I love this conversation. Billy, I got to take a quick break. Billy Colburn is our featured guest on the show today on behalf of the Round Rock, Texas Firefighters Union. Website you want to go to is roundrockfirefighters.org. They're part of the International Association of Firefighters. This would be Local 3082. Back in a few minutes. You're listening to America's Workforce.
This is America's Workforce. More shows available at awfradio.com.
It takes LIUNA to build North America's infrastructure. From roads and bridges to schools and skyscrapers, the men and women of LIUNA, the Laborers International Union of North America, build the projects we depend on. From constructing the Freedom Tower on the site of the former World Trade Center to untangling Washington, D.C.'s congested interstate, LIUNA members do the work that matters. Find out what it takes to be built by LIUNA at liuna.org. That's liuna.org.
America's Workforce is brought to you in part by the Heat and Frost Insulators Labor Management Cooperative Trust. Find out more at insulators.org/LMCT.
American workers are sick of struggling to get by. It's time to get ahead. In the Teamsters Union, workers are winning industry-leading contracts, historically high wages, fully paid health care, and retirement benefits you can count on. Across the country, Teamsters fight alongside our brothers and sisters to secure a better life. It's what we've been doing and how we've been living for more than a century. When we fight, we win. Join us. Be a Teamster.
This segment of the show is brought to you by the Brotherhood of Maintenance of Way Employees Division of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. For more information, please visit bmwe.org. America's Workforce is brought to you in part by the Communication Workers of America. You can find more at cwa-union.org. America's Workforce is brought to you in part by the United Steelworkers. You can find more at usw.org.
There is unity and strength for workers.
We are the USW.
We are the USW.
The United Steelworkers.
The largest industrial union in North America.
We represent 850,000 members in the U.S., Canada, and the Caribbean.
We work in metals,
rubber,
chemicals,
paper,
oil refining, atomic energy, and the service sector.
We are steelworkers, standing strong and fighting for what's right.
America's Workforce is presented by the Laborers International Union of North America. Feel the power right now at liuna.org.
Now, back to Ed Flash Ferens with America's Workforce.
And don't forget, you can check us out on at least 5 platforms. That includes YouTube, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Pandora. And when you get an opportunity, here's what you do. Just sign up, receive our shows on a regular basis, and give us a rating. Always appreciate those 5-star ratings, so please keep them coming. Let's go back to our featured guest right now. That would be Billy Colburn, past president of the Round Rock, Texas Firefighters. RoundRockFirefighters.org is a website, and they are part of the International Association of Firefighters, Local 3082. This is an interesting conversation because we've got national standard. We're talking about safe staffing. And Billy, I told you this when we started recording this podcast today, that we're seeing this all around the country. I mean, the International Association of Firefighters have talked about this many, many times, and there's a lot of communities struggling with staffing. And what you're trying to do essentially is go to the ballot box and say, please honor the national standards. I mean, we're talking safety for the community, safety for the people fighting the fires. Now, they don't seem to get that, and you've taken this to the ballot box, and they're fighting you tooth and nail. Even the police association, the police union, is coming against you. Did you ever anticipate anything like this? I mean, in today's political environment, there's a lot of negative campaigning. You know that. I'm sure it's happening. You have a crazy Texas Senate race down there. I've been following that. Did you anticipate anything like this?
If I told you I did, you'd think I was smart, but yes, sir, we already knew this because we actually ran an election for state, they call it Chapter 143, state civil service for firefighters to give you protection and rights to your job. And that occurred early 2000s. Basically, the police officers and the council and the Chamber of Commerce, they all came out then. So we had already planned for this to happen. We did some pre-gaming with the police officers, though, and we talked to them, and they said they're going to stay neutral. But as soon as they started receiving threats of their budget being cut or, defunding of the police because of this, they decided to come out. I say they drank the Kool-Aid. That's what I call it.
So what are you doing to combat this? I mean, the picture you're painting, it's an uphill battle. Let's be honest about that. So what are you doing to make it happen?
So the number one thing in all this, it's really not winning or losing. It's we have to keep our trust with the community. Our whole careers, everybody loves firemen because we don't care what color you are. We don't care what religion you are. If you're having difficulty breathing, your house is on fire, we're coming. We don't care. We don't ask those questions before we provide that service. And that's what the International Association is all about. It's the passion. It's the drive to help, especially when you live in those communities. It's your neighbors, right? There is no combating it. There is staying professional. And, I was interviewed the other day and I said, I thought it was unprofessional. And I think if they would have listened to the facts and say, hey, this is already funded. We have the funding to do this. All they got to do is this doesn't hurt your budget. I would hope that would have stopped them, but they never asked us. I think they were just like any other employee. They're threatened that they're not going to get their 4% pay raise, and now they're going to come out against us. I believe they're just turning everybody against us, basically.
Billy, are you afraid that this is going to end bad if they don't do something? I mean, you think about the growth. You're just talking about the super suburb outside of Austin, Texas there. And Austin has over 1 million people. I mean, the population in Texas, let's be honest, it's just ridiculous right now. There's a lot of people moving down there. That means the roads are going to take a toll. You're going to need more water. You're going to need more power. Obviously, you're going to need more firemen. Correct. Okay, this is a no-brainer. Is anybody picking up on, is that part of your messaging saying, hey, wait a minute, if you don't get this done, there's going to be a problem?
So we've showed the studies where I'll go with the recent study by the International Association of Firefighters versus the NFPA standard. They evaluated us and they came in and they said we have zero capability as a fire department to meet the minimal standard on nursing homes. We are loaded with nursing homes, apartment complexes, hospitals. We have almost 3 trauma centers in our city. We have four to five different hospitals in our center, but 3 of them are big trauma centers that actually serve some of Boston. They have zero capability. On the normal taxpayer's home, a study was done. That study's done on a 2,000 square foot structure. Well, there's a lot of homes where I work that are 4,000 and 5,000. There's a lot of money in Texas. This study shows that we have 10% capability of meeting that standard. When we saw the new numbers come out, we decided and put this plan together with the International Association of Firefighters that if we don't do something now, it's only going to get worse. And then it is going to cost $200 million. You'll never be able to catch up. That's why we stayed fiscally responsible, put this out 10 years, because you know what? Firemen are just like anybody else. They want to get raises too. They want to get their COLA raises, or if the economy is going bad, we want to make sure we're still getting our keeping up with our retention process that we have and not lose firefighters. So we got to keep our pay up. How do we do that? That's why this plan was designed to be a 10-year plan. We wanted to do it in 5. We wish you could snap our fingers and do it in 5, but it's just not fiscally responsible to do this in 5. So by going out 10 years, we really shot a hole in all the negativity. Well, we went out 10 years because we could do it in 10 years funding it. What the police officers don't know, and I haven't made this public, but I will on here, is during the processes of going through the accounts and trying to figure out if there was money to do this and staffing and still get raises and our retention, we met with the Police Officer Association, and they told us we are 30 police officers down. We need 30 new positions. We programmed in the 30 new positions into our process, which moved our plan from an 8-year to a 10-year plan. The Police Officers Association does not know this. They would have known if they come and talk to us, because we didn't want them to not get their 30 police officers they needed. There needs to be a middle ground, right? And I think when it comes down to it, the basic services that a city provides, and that's where we've gotten away from that. The number one thing that a service the city can provide to me, and I'm a firefighter, is drinking water. It's drinking water. Imagine you not having drinking water at your house, okay? And our city doesn't provide utilities, so that's besides the electricity and the heat and everything, and AC. Our city provides police, fire, parks, and water department, basically is what it does. Water is the number one thing. In Texas, where I live, we're out in the county. We're waiting for cops for an hour. So we kind of take, we have our own protection over here. But the number one thing is drinking water. It's not fire department. It's not police. Okay, so now we have a great water system, and Round Rock has one of the best water systems in the U.S. is what they're saying. We have the highest rating because Round Rock ran out of water one time, and they said they're never going to do this again. Now that we got our water down, we have one of the best park systems. That's where all the money's going. We spend millions of dollars on our park system. In fact, we had over $300 million in the bonds in parks the last 5 years. That's where the priorities need to shift. The priority needs to shift and said, hey, we've had a mayor tell me straight to my face, well, Billy, I don't have people kicking down my door to build a fire station. They're kicking down my door to build a $5.6 million walking trail. And I go, well, when they're educated, they're going to kick down your door. And that's what we're doing. We're educating them. And we're doing good with that. We have a lot of community support. I'm positive about this election. We're getting a lot of negative feedback, obviously from the cities trying to smash this and everything. But I think we can win this and do the right thing and use that $5.6 million to save a life by putting a fire station there that has 10-minute response times rather than build that walking trail.
Billy, we're just about out of time here. I think the best way to button up this podcast is to read the mission statement right from your website. That website, by the way, roundrockfirefighters.org. Our mission, not for self, but for others. This statement embodies our service, safeguarding the lives and property of our great city's citizens and visitors. Amen to that. Amen to that. Just hang in there. You got our full support here on America's Workforce. I wish the best for you and all the people, all the firefighters that make up Round Rock Firefighters, roundrockfirefighters.org, that website, part of the International Association of Firefighters, Local 3082. Stay safe and stay in touch, okay, brother?
Okay, thank you for the time.
And that'll be it for another edition of America's Workforce. Tomorrow, the Communication Workers of America and the Los Angeles Federation of Labor. Until then, all of you have a safe and wonderful day.
That concludes another episode of the America's Workforce Radio Podcast. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe so you never miss a show. America's Workforce is a production of Labor Tools and BMA Media Group. Find out more information online at labortools.com.